Okay, hello. My name is Silvester Carl Henderson. I am the CEO of Professor for Life Incorporated, and I am so deeply honored to interview Dr. Marcia Canton from San Francisco State University. She is a very proficient and excellent professor in the world of STEM nursing. So welcome, Dr. Canton.
Well, thank you very much, Silvester. Nice to be here with you.
Thank you. God bless you. Dr. Canton, could you please introduce yourself to our digital media academic world? Describe your work and obligations as a full tenure professor of nursing at San Francisco State. And then if you could share some of the work that you did when you worked in various capacities at Holy Names University and San Jose State University in both faculty and management.
Okay. Well, I began nursing 400 years ago, a long time ago, in Jersey City, New Jersey. That's home. And my mother said when I was 2 years old, I used to play with my dolls and put Band-Aids on my dolls. So I always wanted to be a nurse. There's nothing else I ever wanted to do or to be. So I just grew up with that passion, and I've never lost that. So I did end up at San Francisco State as a professor emeritus. I retired from San Jose State in 1999. And I took some time and I started teaching at Holy Names University in community health nursing. That's been my field. And then I took a position in community health nursing at San Francisco State University, and I love it. I really do enjoy it. Even though I am beyond retirement age, I continue to teach at the university. My passion has been working with underserved communities, and I started in East Palo Alto when I was still a student at San Francisco, at University of California, San Francisco. I took on a position as director of nurses. I think I was 20 years old then, but I wanted to do something in my community in Palo Alto, East Palo Alto. So I took a position there as a director of nursing for community health nursing for the Drew Health Center in East Palo Alto. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I've just repeated that over the years and trying to find places where there are people who are underserved, and I like to provide health care for them. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm working at the Dr. Davis Senior Center in Hunters Point with students in community health, and it's an underserved community of seniors with that population. So I'm enjoying that once again.
Well, you are encouraging me to hear that you kind of retired, because I retired, but then you kind of decided to come back and do some other work. So that's going to give me some energy, because I get these invitations. I do teach part-time at College of Alameda, but I just retired about a little less than 13 months ago.
Yeah. So
I'm not ready to go back full-time yet.
Okay.
But your story may lead me back into that.
Well, follow your passion. Follow your passion. That's
very
what
much
I'm
so.
doing. Yeah.
Dr. Canton, can you tell us some of the classes that you've had an opportunity to teach at the various institutions?
Yes. Well, as I mentioned, community health is where I migrated to. Once I got a master's degree in community health, I felt like this felt like home for me. I did teach out in the community in East Palo Alto, as I mentioned before. What I'm teaching at San Francisco State is epidemiology, community health nursing, again, the theories. I've been teaching nursing theories. I'm interested in those as well. Mostly that's it. Med-surg, I did med-surg as a volunteer when I first started in nursing, but that didn't resonate with me. It was just too much to think about and to do, and I didn't feel as though I made a connection with patients the way I wanted to. So I finally found my home out in the community. I did peds for a while, so I rotated around, and I always tell my students, try it all and see which one resonates with you. And that's what I did. So I ended up out in the community.
Wow. Now, can you describe the education system and your academic rating ranking within the California State University systems. What are some of the requirements that you had to meet in order to become a tenure professor and a tenure nursing professor and manager in some of these systems?
Well, I did get my doctorate degree from Stanford University in education, and I wanted to focus on education because that's what I was interested in. So that helped a great deal in going through the tenure track process at San Francisco State University. You had to have a evaluation of 3.0 and above. So you had to have good student evaluations. You had to do publications, which I did. I did publish 2 books on mentoring in higher education, which I still use now. One is a workbook on how to be a mentor, and the other one is practice in working with your mentors and doing things like that. So that became my focus. I noticed that, and I'm just going to divert for a minute, but I noticed that students were successful if they had good mentors. And mentoring meant everything for me, people who could guide you in the direction that they thought you should go and give you honest feedback. And that's what we needed all through my education. So I wrote books on mentoring, what worked for me and how we can help others. So I have developed mentor programs that we've done nationwide in a part of an international mentoring association. So we do that now. So that's still my passion as well. But mentoring is what got me through the faculty process, the tenure process at San Jose State University. And I did become tenured full professor, I think 1990, something like that. And I was able to carry that forward. So that does give you some privileges and rights as a teacher there, full professor. You don't have to go through that process anymore. There's all these rungs of ladders that you have to climb, and it felt like I finally made it. I finally achieved that goal. So things calmed down for all of us who got full professor, so it became a good thing. But then I retired at that level and decided that was it. I'm not going back. And I got a call from a friend of mine from the Bay Area Black nurses who said they really need a community health nurse at San Francisco State. And I just prayed about it and decided, yep, okay, I'm not done. So I went back. That was the best decision I ever made because I'm having a wonderful time.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And can you describe your work as a healthcare activist, researcher, and practitioner?
Yes.
Because I know you've done all 3 of those.
Yes. My main interest was my difficulty as an African-American woman trying to get into nursing. I had no idea it would be that hard, but it was. So I carried that with me throughout my career. The difficulty, I was usually one of 2 or 3 Black nurses in the whole program. So I was always singled out. I was always mixed up. They could never tell us apart, even though we were ages apart from one another. We didn't look alike, but every day we would get, which one are you? So it was just not a good experience. And I wanted to make sure that when I made it, whatever that was, I would help others who look like me to come through this process a little easier. So that's been my goal. That's why mentoring is so important for me, because it helps me remind students you're not alone. You can do this. You encourage them to keep going. So that's been my process, is trying to undo what happened to my personal experience in working with students. So we've formed different nursing clubs and organizations that develop mentoring for nursing students to remind them that they can do this. They can.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Ken, how has some of your areas of instruction supported specifically students of color?
Well, we've developed programs that target students of color. The mentoring program that I developed at San Jose State was a university-wide program that targeted students of color. And it was just for students of color. And we would make that very explicit and invite mentors to come and become mentors for these students. We learned that you had to screen mentors, that not everyone had the same agenda in mind. So we learned that you had to go through a mentoring training process where you really find out which mentors are very sincere in mentoring these students, or which are just wanting to mentor because they want to get promoted one way or another. That's not the kind of mentor we wanted. We wanted mentors who had an agenda to help the students that they were working with. So that's how we did that. And I've carried that whole mentoring concept with me to San Francisco State, and we're now developing a mentor program for the students there, targeting African American students first, and then students of color. And we're trying to connect with a sorority that targets the same population, and try to see if we can continue that process to keep students, encourage them, to keep them to stay in school. We serve as role models for them. I did it, you can do it. Always encouraging them, and I know that's what's needed.
Now, if you can define mentoring,
okay.
Can you define mentoring? I would love to hear your definition of mentoring.
Okay, mentoring is the process of observing someone who is in need of direction and location. A mentor can find a student, or a student can find a mentor. Either way it works. But a mentor is someone who has a vision, who has a passion, and has advice for giving or turning around the students and say, that's not the direction you want to go. This is where you want to go. And learning from that student what their passion is. Before you tell them what to do, find out what it is they want to do and help them fulfill their passion. So it's not about you follow me, it's what do you want to do, and let me help you find the road that will best lead you there. So the mentor gives direction, he or she gives suggestions, but first find out the goal that the student has. It's always protege, and I call it protege, not mentee, because protege means to protect, and I think that's what mentors do for students. They protect them, and they make sure that they get on the path they need to go and follow that direction. So they protect them in that journey. The mentor has to always ask questions to find out what the student's passions are. And once you find out what they are, you can say, well, you might want to talk to this person, or you might want to talk, and lead them in a direction in which they should go. But the mentor doesn't tell a student what to do. They find out what they want to do and then give them suggestions for where they can go and where they can follow. I also learned that the mentor isn't all-knowing and everything, that they're the ones who just can lead you to a direction of who may know more than they do about something, and ask questions, say, I don't know, or let's look up together, let's research this together. So the mentor is a guide, and the mentor is following the student's passion and helping them along the journey where they're going with that.
So a mentor, thank you for that. So it sounds like a mentor is kind of like a person who helps you to read your life map.
Yes.
You take they help you to read your life map and look at the map together with you and help to guide you through your journey where you're going.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
It sounds like your mom or your mother must have been a great parent in your earlier years, because I've heard you mention, I believe twice, about how your mom influenced you, and even on our personal phone conversation. Because I had a question, who sort of influenced you to become a professor, and I know mama got to be somewhere in there.
My mother and father. What I remember most about them is they stayed on their knees every night. They would be on their knees. And I thought, wow, they mean this. And so I felt the love and passion. I applied to nursing school in high school. I did pretty well in high school. And so I just applied to all these universities all across the country. I'm going to be a nurse at one of these universities. And I never heard from anyone. So I took this job for $49 a week in an insurance company, thinking, this is not my goal. This is not what I intended. But my father took my application, and he found a 2-year nursing college in Lodi, New Jersey, and that's where I went. I was one of 3 African American students, and they said, we don't usually accept colored students here, but we will make an exception for the three of you. But that meant I was in the spotlight the whole time I was in that school. But it was my parents that knew what my passion was, and they made sure that it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, in all of your research and work, have you been able to, in addition to your wonderful mentorship, come up with specific learning modules that are just for students of color? And if so, could you describe, let's say, the process of meeting a young African-American female or a young African-American male? And what are some of the things that, as a mentor for underprivileged students, you have to, how do you guide them? You know, like step by step, 2 or 3 steps you can share with our digital world.
Okay, that would be what I told you earlier, and that is finding out what their goals were. Number one, they have to develop, because they're usually not clear or focused on exactly what they want to do. So as a mentor, I have to help them hone and be more clear on their goals, where they want to go, what they want to do. For example, I'm working with a student right now who has 3 different careers in mind. And that's fine, but you have to select one. Let's do one and see where you go with that before you pick all these other things, because otherwise you're going to burn yourself out. And I see students do that because they're not focused. So I think a mentor helps a student get focused on where they want to go, exactly what they need to do, the steps they need to take. And the important part of that is not only the focus and the direction, but constantly getting feedback from them, where they're going, etc. And the other part of the mentoring is that there's an end to the mentoring. That the mentor, you could have a mentor for all your life, but there's at some point the mentor has to let go and say, you're on your own. You have achieved all the goals that we set up. You're about ready to graduate. Now it's time for you to turn back and do the same process with someone else. So you have this an ending to that relationship, because the protege grows up to be like the mentor, and they have the skills that they need to move on. And that has to be some sort of celebration, some acknowledgement that this relationship, the way it is right now, has ended because you're ready to move on to the next step. Now, what are you going to do in the next step? So it's a process, and there's a beginning and an end of the mentoring process. So all through that is learning, finding out what they need and getting the information they need and learning from one another. But there is an end to the mentor-protege relationship. It just moves into another phase.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you have one research accomplishment that is the most significant to you?
One.
An instructional style.
Yes. Well, when I did my dissertation, I had a hard time because my goal was to study African American students across the country. I didn't do anything small. I decided to go across the whole country, take a look at different colleges and universities. Wherever there were African American nursing students, I wanted to see what their existence was like, what it was for them in these colleges and universities. And my goal was to compare African American colleges and universities with predominantly white universities and look at those Black students in both universities and make a comparison. My thought was that the students in predominantly Black universities would do much better than the students in mixed universities, in predominantly white universities, but I was wrong. I learned through my research what held the students, what retained the students in the university, no matter where they were, if they had a good mentor. And that's when I started the whole notion of mentoring. If they had someone who could give them advice, who cared about them, who demonstrated that they cared about them, showed them compassion, and gave them solid directions, they were the ones who graduated from the university and went on to be successful. So it didn't matter which type of school or university was in. What mattered is if they had a good mentor in those colleges. Yes.
So it was the academics.
Yes.
It was their compassion and sharing of love through instruction.
That's right.
And time
Yeah.
that helped the student. I am so glad you said that in a recent interview that I just did recently for a bishop out of New Orleans. I made the statement that I felt that one of the main goals of a faculty professional is to have care, compassion, patience, love. And if you have all those elements together, it will lead you to whatever steps you need to assist the students to complete their task and their goals.
Exactly.
And so you have just reassured that.
Yes.
Dr. Canton, do you have a favorite book or creative project that you would look as like an ultimate you would like to share with our media world?
Well, for me, it's the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah. That I read every morning. I have chosen faith over fear. And so,
wow.
Yeah. So for me, it's the Bible. Yeah.
So it's it's your faith and belief in God that has served you well in terms of all that you've accomplished, but you've accomplished so much in your life and you continue to accomplish, and you look wonderful in your life that you've retired. God bless you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
What are some of the ways that you've challenged? You probably have already answered this. What are some of the challenges that you faced as a woman of color in higher education?
I'm glad you said what are some of them, because there are many of them. Yeah. Just being present in a university, no matter where I was, this whole color issue is really big. It's still very big. So just being present was a challenge, because you bring stereotypes that come, you have to dispel constantly. It's hard work. It's a lot of hard work if you're in a predominantly white environment many times. It's difficult. So those are some of the challenges that I had to overcome. And I used my parents again as role models. I watched how they navigated life. And it was never easy, but you just persisted and you stayed focused on where you wanted to go and what goals you had in life, and you kept going.
Wow.
So, persistence and determination. I remember sitting outside of Stanford before I would go to class every day, and I'd play a gospel music, just something that would inspire me to let me know I was in the right place at the right time. And I'd go and I'd march on, and that was my encouragement. So anything you can use to stay focused and certain that you know where you're going, you know what you want to do, God's got your back, you can go anywhere. That's what I've learned.
Faith and education generally in this society don't mix.
Yeah, I know.
And it is so joyous to hear a Christian professional talk about how it is God that they depended upon to give them direction.
I have testimonies.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, because as a man of faith myself, I believe that we can do nothing without the help of Jesus Christ.
That's right.
But in our institutions, you're sort of shunned upon.
Yeah.
In order to mention anything about faith.
Yeah.
Having said that, could you share some of your community work you've accomplished for the improvement of protected classes with respect to the current, I'm going to say, diversity movement? Mm-hmm. Because with the current debate between DEI, not DEI, and equality or what have you, I'm just going to say, basically, in addition to your mentoring, can you share some of the additional works that you've done that help to protect, because you mentioned that earlier, the protected classes around just diversity in general?
Well, I've always stayed in areas where there was diversity initiatives. That was always calling me wherever I was. So I'm doing the same thing at San Francisco State. We're trying to develop a program. I mentioned a mentoring program again, but it's targeted for African American students. And all of a sudden this DEI came up as a big issue right now, but we're moving forward with it anyway. This is we have to stay focused. I've learned that we can't get distracted in our achievement. This has been my passion, and this is where I'm staying. So there's an equity and inclusion initiative at San Francisco State, which is wonderful. I'm part of that in helping students who don't look like the regular university, students of color, to more of them to come in and to gain the skills that they need to gain to graduate and go back to their communities. Now, the community that I'm working in at Dr. Davis Senior Center, I only have one African American student, and all the seniors at this center are African American or Asian right now. So they don't have students who look like them. And that's the goal that I have. I know that these students could be wonderful for working in this kind of population. So I've always stayed focused on diversity and inclusion because that's still a big issue in healthcare.
I thank you, Dr. Canton, for sharing that. Mm-hmm. It seems as though I made a statement on an interview I did recently, and just a conversation that I've had with a lot of people, mm-hmm. that you don't necessarily, this is my belief, it is really wonderful when the law supports equality,
yes.
but you don't have to have the law
yes.
to share equality.
Yes.
As a human being, if it's inside of you,
yeah.
you simply use that wonderful passion. I could tell that mm-hmm. you have impacted many lives of many students. Mm-hmm. I can just tell from the caring, loving nature that you are sharing here on this just interview right here.
Yeah.
So yeah. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any future goals or future projects, or in addition innovations? I know you've done so much in your life, and you know, but do you have any other things besides in addition, I should say, to bringing more students of color into the nursing space?
Yeah. Well, as long as I continue to breathe, I was telling my students this the other day, people were looking at their watch saying, isn't it time for you to be going to travel and rest? But I feel this is my calling, and I'm not ready to give it up. God will let me know when it's time. But right now, this is still my passion. And so I'm excited to see people who look like me come behind me and do the same thing. So that's what I'm generating now, is trying to keep this going. We stand on strong shoulders. And so I want to continue that. I want to make sure that whenever I go, someone else picks up the mantle and continues this journey.
So it sounds like, Dr. Marcia Canton, that one of your biggest goals is to pay it forward.
Pay it forward. That's what we have.
And when you pay it forward,
yes.
you will then share it with someone else.
Yes, that's
well,
right.
I have my last question that I have just to ask you. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Do you have any other thoughts or ideas you would like to communicate?
My thought, and this is what kept me going all these years, is don't ever give up. I make my students say that at the end of every class, don't ever give up. That there's a place for you in this world, you find it, and you achieve whatever dream you have, that you can do it. Yes.
Wow. You know what? On behalf of my company, Professor for Life Incorporated, Dr. Marcia Canton, I want to thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and sharing your beautiful persona and all of your knowledge and your great intellect through a Christian context here with the world. You've made an impact on me just from the couple of times we've spoken on the phone, and we met on LinkedIn maybe about 6 months to a year ago or longer. And so I'm glad that persistence on both sides made this actual interview happen. I want to thank you once again from my heart to your heart for taking the time of your schedule. God bless you, and I hope to be talking to you soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless you now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.